Distilled is a spirited strategy game. This is a mid-weight Euro game in which we're going to run distilleries and we're going to make booze. A topic about which I really don't know much, although I appreciate those who make the gin so I can make Negroni, my favorite cocktail. And actually, I learned quite a bit from this game, which is unusual, meaning that this is a Euro game, but it has a commitment to its theme, which I find unusual. This game is unusually thematic for a Euro game. So we're gonna have our distilleries, and each distillery is represented by a player board, like the one that you see here. You will have a unique character that represents you in the game, and there are a lot of these characters, each with a portrait, with the biographies, unique starting resources, a unique ingredient that the character comes with. As you can see, a lot of variety, a lot of different people who contributed to the great mission of giving us booze. So, at the beginning of the game, you will receive two of these characters. You will choose one that will represent you in the game. There is also a set of different kind of liquors that we're going to make, and there is a huge variety of double-sided flights, so great variety of gameplay, because depending on which one it is used in a game, then certain kinds of drinks will be made requiring different resources with different amounts of victory points and so on and so forth. And so the ones that we're gonna use in a specific game, we're gonna take their labels represented by cardboard tokens, and we're going to store them in that area. For example, in this game, say we're making, among the other ones, we're making cachaça and we're making brandy. And so we're going to store the corresponding tokens there. And then during the game, as you make a certain liquor, you will take the corresponding token, you will collect it, and then when you actually sell it, you will place the corresponding label on one of these spaces on your personal board, one that is empty still, and that will give you specific advantages and bonuses as indicated by the text and or symbols there. So we have, again, a unique character with different starting resources, with different abilities. She gets a discount when buying ingredients, for example. We have 3 slots where we can place distillery upgrades that will make our distillery more efficient in different ways. We have a pantry where we store our ingredients such as water, yeast, sugar. There are 3 kinds of sugars that you can have: rice-based, plant-based, and vegetable-based. We have the storeroom where we place our bottles and our barrels. We always start with a basic glass bottle and with a metal barrel, and we may be able to acquire fancier stuff as we go. Also, we have the warehouse where we place the drinks that need to be aged. Not all do, and again, you look at your clipboard here, and it will tell you if, for example, a certain drink can be aged. For example, cachaça goes in a metal barrel and cannot be aged, and whiskey goes in a wooden barrel, so I need to acquire that and must be aged, as you can see from the little symbol there. Timer, no timer. Now, in general, each turn starts with a market phase in which we will acquire new stuff, and then we're gonna have a distill phase in which we're gonna make our booze, and then a sell phase in which we sell it, and an age phase in which we age stuff that we don't sell right away, and the stuff that we age gains more flavors, as represented by these cards. It sounds like a lot, but again, the theme really ties it all together, because, think about it, buy components, make drinks, distill them, and then sell them or age them. It really is a thematic game. Also, I should mention distillery goals. You receive 3 of these cards at the beginning of the game that will give you different ways of scoring points at the end of the game. The game lasts 7 rounds, as indicated by that turn track there. And at the end of round 3, between 3 and 4, I don't know if you can see that icon all the way there, you will discard one of your initial distillery goals. And this is nice, because I like games with unique goals that are revealed at the end of the game, a little bit of surprise there, but very often you have to choose them at the very beginning. Here you have the first 3 turns to see what you want to commit to. Now, as I said, we start with a market phase in which we buy stuff. There are 2 kinds of things that we can buy. We can buy cards from the basic market, which is all the way up there. And those cards are either very cheap or even free, such as yeast, water, or rice-based grain is free, as you can see from the 0 in the price tag there. And they will give me, well, different things that I will need later. Also, they may give me immediate actions that I can perform. As you can see there, for example, yeast will give you coins immediately when you purchase it. Water will give you a chance of purchasing more stuff right away. And then you have fancier kinds of sugar that you actually had to pay for, the fancier than the rice ones. And then you may also add barrels, clay barrels, or wooden barrels to your storeroom. That's for the basic market. Now, during the market phase, you can buy up to 2 cards from the basic market. You can buy as many cards as you want from this other area here, which is the fancier market. But these cards are more expensive, and so you can buy as many as you want, but also with the limit of can you afford them. So during the market phase, players will alternate buying one thing. So I buy one, then my friend buys one, then the friend buys one, and we go on around the table that way. We can buy, again, a basic card up there. We can buy a fancier card here. We can also buy cubes representing different kinds of recipes. At the beginning of the game, you always know how to make moonshine and vodka. The other recipes, which again will change depending on which of these cards you placed at the beginning of the game. The other recipes need to be learned, and there are 3 tiers. There are the bronze ones, the silver ones, and the gold one. And the cost to buy the recipe during the market phase is 2 for bronze, 4 for silver, and 6 for gold. Suppose now it's my turn to buy something, and I decide to spend 4 to buy the recipe for gin, so I can make Negroni later. Then everybody buys something, and then it's my next turn again. I'm gonna buy 1 card from the basic market. Then everybody goes. Then I'm gonna buy 1 card from the fancier market, a little more expensive, and I place it in my storeroom. In my pantry. And so on and so forth. When you buy a card from there, it is replaced immediately. Again, remember, you can also buy stuff from other areas, in which case they will go in different areas of your display, but the idea still remains. We slide down cards and refill the market, because then at the end of the round, the cards all the way to the right will go to the truck, which basically is this display that collects the 3 discard piles of upgrade items, upgrade ingredients, and distillery upgrades. And there are game effects that will allow us to interact with the truck, meaning allow us to interact with the discard piles. We continue the market phase until everybody passes. So again, people will buy regular ingredients, other fancy stuff, and or recipes. Now it's time to make our drinks, our liquors, and you pick up your ingredients from the pantry. Suppose that, and you will place cards in this section here, and to make anything you will need at least 1 water, at least 1 sugar, I'm gonna put 3 there, and at least 1 yeast, and I suppose that I have 2 instead. After doing that, we are gonna take alcohol cards. They're all the same, alcohol cards, 1 per sugar that we place there. So the cards that we place there form our mini deck, and pretty much this is like the batch of alcohol, the batch of booze that we are making. Once we place them there, we shuffle them together. Now, something that I learned from this rule book, again, because this game is so thematic, is that when you make a batch of liquor, the early things that come out of the batch are dangerous and definitely not good, even poisonous, and so you have to remove them. They can be used in later batches. And the same thing for the late stuff that is at the bottom of the batch. So really, what is called the heads and the tail are not used, but can be stored for later. And what is left and you actually use to make the drink is the heart. So once you have your ingredients and you shuffle them in a deck, you take the top and bottom cards to represent the heads and tails of that batch, and you place them in your pantry to be used in later turns. What is left is what actually goes in your drink. So you will reveal your cards. And so here, for example, I have a drink that includes 2 rice, 2 sugar, and it includes some water and some alcohol. And then, well, once I see what I have there, I declare what I make out of that. Remember the recipes here? Then I can make only one kind. I can make only one kind of liquor per turn. And I declare which one it is. For example, remember I have 2 rice-based sugars in there. Well, I can make vodka because I just need any one. If by discarding cards during that process no sugar was left, I can always make moonshine. Suppose that I had in there the recipe for soju. Then, you may remember, I had 2 rice in there. I can declare that I'm making soju. And that will give me that many victory points. So once you determine what you have made, you collect money and or victory points. For example, this one will give me 5 victory points if I'm making soju out of that, and 1 victory point because there is another cool victory point symbol there. It will also make me money. All the money show on the cards that I'm using, so it will make me 4 money. Suppose that I had made vodka, then it would make me fewer victory points, but there would be some coins to be made there. So you collect all possible coins coming from the things that you made, plus you also need to use a barrel, so more coins, and you also need to use a bottle. More stuff there. Remember from the items that you could buy, the fancy items, then you can also buy fancy bottles from there. So when you're making your alcohol, again, you always need to use a barrel, which may be the metal barrel, maybe a different kind of barrel, if you use the ones that require clay, for example, and you also need a bottle. The basic bottle, once you use it and it generates a coin, always goes back in your storeroom. The fancier bottles, once you use them, you can use them only once, and then you store them next to your player aid because they will give you victory points at the end of the game. Once we have made our alcohol, we need to decide, well, not exactly decide, we need to apply whether it needs to be sold immediately or stored. Again, if it's to be sold immediately because the recipe says so, then you collect the coins and victory points immediately. Suppose that I made something that requires aging. Suppose I made whiskey, then I have a wooden barrel, and suppose this is totally whiskey. It's totally correct. It's the correct stack. I take the corresponding label, I place it here face down, and I start aging it. Each round in which that is aged, I take a flavor card from the deck that I showed you earlier and I place it there at the bottom. So the longer it stays, the more flavor cards it acquires, which may make it more valuable when I finally sell it. And also when you sell an aged spirit, there will be more points as indicated there. So for example, selling an aged spirit that has 4 flavor cards attached to it will give me 10 victory points. Now, the game only has 7 rounds, so if you're going to age it for 5 rounds, you better start aging that early. And again, so when you make it is when you collect these labels, and if you sell it right away, remember, you get to place the label immediately. If you age it, then it's when you sell it, then you get to place the label and collect the corresponding bonus. Because of the aging process, it's possible to sell, although you're always making a single spirit per round, it's possible to sell more than one per round, because maybe in a later round I'm making one, which I'm selling right away, and I decide to sell 2 that I have been aging in previous rounds. So this is the idea. Again, it looks like there are a lot of steps, but they are just so well connected thematically, because ultimately you collect ingredients, items, and upgrades. You make your spirit by the mechanism of creating a stack, discarding the top and the bottom, and see what you're left with. Sell, age, repeat for 7 rounds. Collecting points as you go, hopefully, and at the end of the game, collecting more points for your goals, more coins for the collection of bottles that you put together, coins from different sources, and at the end, the player with the highest score, with the most points, wins the game. Distilled is a great game. It is simply a great game. Setup can be a little bit elaborate, that's for sure, but the game also comes with these super nice trays that I'm always happy to have. Also, however, the game doesn't come with, I just never buy them, but hey, I'm happy. And again, it will definitely help when you set up the game after you put it away, because again, there's a lot of stuff that you need to place out there, and specifically based on the spirits you're gonna use in any given game, which is a great thing that you have multiple spirits, and so you have different games with different objectives and resources maybe being emphasized. Great there. And also the production values are excellent. I just love the way everything looks and feels, from the point of view of handling those thick cardboard tokens, the wooden scoring markers here. Everything looks just amazing. The art on the cards is so thematic, and it really enhances the experience. And talking about theme, I already kind of raved a little bit about it in the main segment, but I want to point this out. Very often we have this dichotomy between Euro games with clean, interesting mechanics and thematic games that are a little more messy, but then you can see the theme through the mechanics. This is a rare case of a game that really achieves both. Everything feels very thematic. And I feel that I learn things about the topic. A lot of Euro games that I played, I didn't learn much about trading in ancient Egypt from games with that topic, but I feel that now I know more about the people, the process, the technologies, the challenges, the art that goes into making stuff that then I drink and I enjoy. And to me, that's remarkable. A very thematic Euro game. And one that from the point of view of gameplay purely, again, strikes an incredibly good balance. It's complicated enough to feel rewarding. It has a lot of strategies, a lot of moving parts, and yet at the same time, it doesn't feel particularly heavy. Again, possibly because every mechanic is so well organized thematically, so it's easy to remember the things that you are trying to do, that you're supposed to do, what you need to collect. Collect ingredients, make a spirit, sell it or age it. It makes sense. But around that idea, there are just so many different strategies that come from different goals that you can complete, different things that you can score. I didn't even mention the category of spirit awards. Again, different kinds of awards that you can collect. And again, what are the things that will score for this category will change each game. Huge replay value based on different things that you can score. Many paths to victory, many things that are important that really will be revealed only at the end. That age spirit that you reveal, you yourself don't know exactly how much is going to score because of the because of the flavor. Some of those goals, many of those goals have to do with having majority in a certain thing, so they may change at the end. So very highly interactive with a really good degree of uncertainty, so that even if somebody is ahead of points, the competition still feels open until the very end, because there may be some mighty stuff that is revealed in the final scoring. The game has this idea of acceleration, which I like very much in games. I don't so much like games that are rinse and repeat. And here I prefer games in which, in the middle part, middle section, you're doing more things or better things or bigger things than at the beginning. And at the end, you are scoring more and doing bigger things than in the middle. The game definitely has the narrative arc here as you are indeed creating these awesome things, and you age them, and at the end they will score a lot of interesting things here. You have a midweight game with, I feel, the depth of a bigger one at a fraction of the rules overhead. Again, it's not maybe like a beginner. It's not, if you have friends and they only play Ticket to Ride, maybe this is not the next step up, but it's definitely one that, for people that have been playing modern board games for a while, is one that is very approachable, very enjoyable, and again, just very clever. It gives me what I like from Euro games, which is the idea of creating and crafting a sophisticated strategy that pays off over time, that has a nice balance between the tactical thing. Oh, there is a nice bottle that I like to collect now that gives me points, and the strategic one, because that bottle will be part of a set, will give me something at the end of the game, etc., etc., etc. Distilled. This is just an excellent game. Rules, gameplay, theme, components, everything shines. I loved it. If one day this room reaches capacity and I have to seriously reduce my collection, say to like 100 games total out of more than 5,000, I think Distilled is one of those games that are going to stay.